This film follows one of the most unusual place name trails in the uploaded material: Fengdu, Fengdu, Cahokia, the Ricci map, and the Osage connection. The safest way to present it is as a research hypothesis, not as a settled textbook conclusion. But it is a fascinating hypothesis because several lines of evidence are being placed side by side. Luo Mabeng's late 16th century narrative, Mateo Ricci's world map, later Yankee interpretation, Mississippian cultural parallels, and Osage historical vocabulary connected with Cahokia. The story begins with Yankee, the Sanbao Taijian, admiral of the Ming treasure fleet. In the presentation, the central question is direct. How far did the final Ming voyage really go, and did it complete the imperial mandate to explore and map the Western world? The uploaded lore deck frames the final voyage as a mystery, because the normal historical account ends in the Indian Ocean, while the narrative material keeps pointing beyond the accepted endpoint. The keywords are Fengdu, written with the characters commonly associated with Fengdu, a word tied to the Chinese underworld. That is why the name is so dramatic. In a list of places and voyages, it looks impossible. A country name that also evokes hell or the land of the dead. The uploaded argument turns that problem around. Instead of dismissing the term as pure fantasy, it asks whether the terrifying name might have been attached to a real place at the farthest edge of the voyage. The main literary source in this packet is Luo Mabeng's Sanbao Taijian Ziongjai, the account of the Western world voyages of the Sanbao eunuch. The Ricci report in the attachments makes an important distinction. The earliest primary occurrence of the relevant Fengdu form in this source set is not a Ricci map label. It is Luo's narrative itself, where chapter headings in the 1597 text use Fengdu Luo in chapters 87 and 93. That matters because it separates the literary claim from the map claim. Now the Ricci map enters the story. The resemblance is linguistic and visual, but it must be handled carefully. On the 1602 Ricci map, the clearest North American interior label discussed in the report is Zinfulancha, New France. A separate Central America thread preserves a Honduras-like reading, Fengdula. Modern discussion then brings together Fengdu, Fengdula, Fulancha, and Fengdula. The point is not that Ricci directly wrote Cahokia as Fengdu. The point is that later readers noticed a cluster of similar sounds and labels around the Americas. The report's key distinction is crucial for the video. Luo gives the primary literary use of Fengdu. Ricci gives a separate map layer, with New France and the Honduras label zone. The later Cahokia identification comes through modern interpretation, especially the Nicholas, Bonner Nicholas, and Wang chain. That makes the trail layered. First Luo's Fengdu, then Ricci map phonetics, then modern attempts to align those names with Cahokia and the Mississippi Valley. The lore presentation then opens a different branch of the trail, Adan. The deck argues that Adan should not be read only as Adan on the Arabian coast. It treats the characters as a layered expression capable of suggesting red, wealth, holy men, the south, and a country linked to faith. This is the interpretive doorway through which the presentation separates Islamic Holy Land material from a second Western setting identified as Po, the Po Valley, and Venice. In that reading, the ruling prince of Po is connected to Venice and the Doge, while the Islamic Holy Land passages are linked to Mecca, Medina, the Kaaba, Tianfeng, and Sharia law. The argument is not simply geographical. It is based on contrasts. Wine versus no alcohol, one holy center versus two holy cities, red-robed Christian authority versus Muslim pilgrimage language. The video uses these slides to show how the uploaded narrative tries to sort mixed Western world descriptions into separate regions. Another hinge is the medallion or imperial seal problem. The written presentation argues that Yankee's official death report was hearsay and that Luo preserves a different ending. The mission was not complete until the imperial mandate had been fulfilled. In the narrative, when the emperor later asks about the seal, the answer is not simply that it is lost. It is described as too far away to return and still in use. The uploaded report connects this claim to a bronze medallion said to have been found near Asheville, North Carolina. The proposed route then becomes oceanographic. The detailed route synthesis shows the fleet moving through the Indian Ocean, around Africa, into the Atlantic, and north by current systems. Monsoon shifts, the Agulhas current, the Bangla current, equatorial currents, and the Gulf Stream. This does not prove the voyage, but it gives the hypothesis a physical pathway. The argument is that the ships did not have to sail a straight modern line. They could have used wind and current as a moving road. The northern landfall is built from a cluster of clues in the uploaded material: long months at sea, darkened skies, mist, inability to read the stars, drums used for ship-to-ship communication, a collision of warm and cold currents, and cliffs. The lorry deck identifies this with the Canadian Maritimes and the Gulf of St. Lawrence, where the Gulf Stream and the Labrador Current create fog and difficult navigation. The narrative then adds narwhals, an Arctic animal that would point north rather than to the Caribbean. The narwhal slide is one of the most memorable visual clues. The text describes a ghostly blue creature with a spear from its head and a fish-like body. In the hypothesis, that description belongs near the Gulf of St. Lawrence. From there, the route goes inland. Some ships move along the St. Lawrence, and the account describes a special place associated with a two-winged thunder god wrapped in mists, which the presentation reads as Niagara Falls. After Niagara, the argument moves through interconnected freshwater inland seas and then toward the Mississippi system. At a certain point, boats can no longer carry the journey, so a mounted party continues overland. The proposed destination is Fengdu, identified in the uploaded materials as Cahokia and the Mississippian world. A great mound city, a place of plazas, ceremony, trade, astronomy, and power at the center of a river landscape. Cahokia becomes the candidate because the uploaded materials see a dense pattern of correspondences. The city is described as the Yama Kingdom, the country ruled by the Sun Spirit, and the earthly reflection of the heavenly market enclosure. Those are interpretive claims, but they are specific. The argument does not rest on one word alone. It rests on a convergence of place name resemblance, travel path, ecological clues, social descriptions, religious motifs, and astronomical urban symbolism. The Osage connection enters through Louis F. Burns and through the broader Cahokia-related context. The Ricci report notes that Burns is important because he uses Cahokian vocabulary in Osage historical discussion, referring to a Little Osage group as Heart Stays People, Cahokian, and Kaskaskian. This does not create the Chinese place name Fengdu. Rather, it strengthens the Cahokia side of the trail by showing that Osage history preserves language connected with Cahokian and Kaskaskian identity. The uploaded narrative also invokes Osage oral history material about ancestors and a strange village of the dead and dying. That theme is used alongside the idea of Fengdu as a frightening place name, a place associated with death, disease, and the afterlife. This is powerful imagery, but it should be presented as a comparative clue, not as automatic proof. The important point for this film is that Osage tradition, Cahokia memory, and Mississippian sacred geography are part of the same interpretive field. The lorry deck lists social customs and moral codes that it argues fit the Mississippian world. Hominy and pemmican, chunky-like games, plazas with market stalls, matrilineal inheritance, women's leadership, ritualized warfare, captive taking, public punishment, and ancestor consultation. These parallels are not all equally strong, and each would need independent checking against the original Chinese text. But as a cumulative pattern, they explain why the argument looks toward Cahokia rather than a vague unknown country. The ecological and cultural lists go further. Bison, copperheads, rattlesnakes, alligator snapping turtles, river otters, freshwater pearls, catfish, gar, maize, cypress, persimmon, white mulberry, Niagara, the Great Lakes, and the Piasa. Religious parallels include a sun spirit ruler, processional carrying, Venus worship, snakes, black mirrors, ancestor veneration, and a sister city across a great river connected with the dead. The hypothesis argues that these details cluster around the Mississippi Valley. One of the most distinctive claims is astronomical. The presentation says Yuo describes Fengdu as a reflection of the heavenly market enclosure, a Chinese star field associated here with Corona Borealis, Serpens, Hercules, and Ophiuchus. The slide overlays star names onto a city plan. This is visually striking and should be highlighted, but it is also one of the claims most in need of specialist review. Both Chinese astronomy and Mississippian urban planning have to be handled carefully. The strongest public framing is a layered research hypothesis. The linguistic trail runs from Yuo's Fengdu to Ricci map resemblance to later modern interpretation. The geographical trail runs from the Indian Ocean to currents, fog, the St. Lawrence, Niagara, the Great Lakes, and the Mississippi Valley. The cultural trail runs through Cahokia, Mississippian ceremonial life, and Osage historical vocabulary. Each layer can be challenged, but the combined pattern is the reason the case is worth documenting. So the film ends with a distinction, not a slogan. The Ricci map does not, by itself, prove Cahokia. Burns does not, by himself, create Fengdu. Yuo does not, by himself, settle the geography. But together, the uploaded materials preserve a remarkable question, whether Fengdu was remembered as an underworld because it was imaginary, or because the final voyage encountered a real and devastating place of death, memory, and power in the Mississippian heartland.